Drinking buddies. Luke and Kate are co-workers at a Chicago brewery where they spend their days drinking and flirting. They're perfect for each other, except that they're both in relationships. But you know what makes the line between friends and more than friends really blurry? Beer. Starring Olivia Wilde, Jake Johnson, Anna Kendrick, Ron Livingston, written and directed by Joe Swanberg. This is actually the first thing I've seen from Swanberg, but going through his credits, I've at least heard of LOL and Hannah Takes the Stairs, sort of the mumblecore guy, and I can tell you I'll definitely be checking out more of Joe Swanberg's work after this. Have a mini review for us, Bob.
Yeah, so here's what I thought of the movie. I gave Drinking Buddies a 4 out of 5, and my mini review is as follows. Minimalistic indie dramedy about flirty coworkers, both in other relationships. Not much happens, but I guess that's part of the point. Dot, dot, dot. Good performances, great dialogue, and believably normal events and characters we've likely all experienced at one point or another. It was nice. What's your mini review, and then we'll go into it a little deeper.
Sounds good. Well, for my mini review, I'm going to recount my very short tweet and the buzz surrounding it. Well, I guess I could call it buzz or not, but
Ooh.
this is what happened.
Okay.
So I tweeted after I saw it, dug the crap out of Drinking Buddies. Look for my full review this week. And the reason I wanted to bring that up is because I got that tweet favorited by Joe Swanberg himself. Woohoo!
What? Really? Whoa, we've hit
Yeah.
the big times, fellas. That's awesome.
And oh yeah, 5 stars. Dun, dun, dun.
Wow. Wait. So he favorited just your buzz tweet, not your review tweet, right? Oh, you haven't done a
Yeah,
review tweet. What am I talking about? Okay, I'm just so
yeah.
excited about your buzz tweet. I'm totally like, that's
Well, me
so
too. That's
cool.
why I did it as my mini review. So, but I've got a ton to say, Bob. If I get started, I may not stop for a while. So I'll give you the chance to set the stage this time if you want.
Okay, yeah, and I feel like we have to lay out a disclaimer, man. This is like the first 5 out of 5 for Logan since we started this whole endeavor together, and it's after you got a buzz tweet from like the main guy who made the movie. So I don't know, dude. Like, what is that all about?
Yeah, well, I just was thinking about it, and I like this movie more than any other movie I've seen so far this year. And yeah, well, I'll get into it. But like I say, if I start, I may not stop. So feel free to give some thoughts.
Okay, so I love the cast, and the characters they were playing were all played exceptionally well. It was very understated, very like slice of life, normal everyday stuff happening here.
Yeah.
Just a couple of couples who otherwise didn't know each other very well. We see them interact and then spend a weekend together because Ron Livingston's character, I guess, has a cousin with a cabin or something like that. It's not that important. Um, and yeah, I mean they're all 30-somethings or late 20-somethings. Actually, I think Ron Livingston might be in his 40s, but he's trying to be like a 30-something playing that role. Um, and did I already say I just loved the way they acted and the characters? It was great. Now I
Yeah,
feel
well,
I'll save my negative for later. Let's hear more positive from you.
oh, can't wait to hear your negative. But yeah, 5 stars. I feel like that's a headline in and of itself because I'm usually pretty reluctant. And I must admit some sheepishness now that I put that out there like that. I'm tempted to backtrack a little, throw some caveats out there. Like, I'm not sure this movie will be entirely universal in its appeal, but it really nailed something for me. So, the world in Drinking Buddies is one that I feel like I know that I live in, and it just hits really close to home. For one thing, it's in Chicago, in a neighborhood that was like right where I used to live. The neighborhood was right next to mine.
Mm.
I've been back in Brooklyn for about a year now, but the 3 years before that were in Chicago, right in the exact world of this movie. Revolution Brewing, I guess, is where they say they are, and I've been to that place a bunch of times.
Mm.
They mentioned the Empty Bottle, which is right down the street from me. Um, yeah, this felt very much like the world I inhabited, and I feel like they got a ton right. The people are just so easily the people I know and hang out with, both in Chicago and in Brooklyn. I worked with two people who had an office romance that reminded me a lot of the one between Luke and Kate, actually. I just kept thinking that. I've been on a two-couple weekend getaway, like the one in the movie to Michigan.
Oh, how
I feel
much
like
like
I've.
the one?
uh, well, it's interesting, right? So just to pause time out here in my gushing and to explain that a little bit. So the two couples, Luke and Kate, and their significant others, they go on this weekend to Michigan, and they see the lake there. And it's interesting because a, a lot happens, but on the other hand, it's not necessarily that much that happens. And even though it seems like I'm trying to do this without spoilers, I guess, but um, something kind of significant happens there, but it doesn't end up being the big driver of what happens in the movie. It's like almost irrelevant. Luke and Kate don't necessarily know very much about it, if anything, and it could have happened or not happened, and the movie would have gone almost exactly the same, I felt.
Yep, I think that's a fair point.
So, yeah, my weekend trip wasn't exactly like that, but on the other hand, I feel like theirs wasn't so groundbreaking either. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is moving. When Luke helps Kate move, I feel like I've just helped so many people move, and it's been an experience pretty similar to that, to be quite honest. Oh yeah, and craft beer is something I talk about and explore a ton with my social groups.
Mm.
It's my world, Bob. I felt like it was really my world, and it really nailed it.
This movie was made for Logan.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I'll even go a little bit deeper. The way people talked about their feelings, or more accurately, didn't talk about their feelings, it's way more like me than I care to admit, to be quite honest. The way Luke and Jill kept talking about getting married, or what they did is they talked about talking about getting married,
Mm.
and it was a masterful avoidance of saying anything real or being vulnerable in any way. Or the way Kate would act, completely different from the way she talked. I got so anxious on behalf of Ron Livingston's character. She would say how she didn't want him to make her a snack, or she had to leave in the middle of the night because she had a delivery coming and couldn't accept a ride. It was like she was subtly keeping him at arm's length. Hey, don't get too close to me. But the words coming out of her mouth were like, no, 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 it's just, I just have to go get a package, or don't make a snack, or anything like that. It just, they weren't quite lining up, her words and her actions. And it's a bit close to home in an uncomfortable way, but it made me like the movie more.
Yeah, that Olivia Wilde's character Kate. I love the movie mostly because of her. Although Ron Livingston, I have a soft spot for because I love the movie Office Space, and I've seen him in a bunch of other stuff. And he's great on screen, and he's kind of a subtle guy that doesn't get used very often in great roles like this. But Olivia Wilde, she plays a girl that is the proverbial girlfriend that's not a girlfriend, but just a friend that's a girl, that I swear it's not just me who's had a lot of those growing up or throughout my life. I'm sure you have. I'm sure a lot of guys have. And somebody who's good looking, who's always dating somebody else, but who is still flirty and talks to you. I mean, and you and I are both married now, and I'm talking mostly before my marriage, but even during my marriage, this has happened plenty. Maybe not plenty, but it's happened before where there's somebody like that, and I thought she played it beautifully. Like you could
Yeah.
never, you could never, you could never call her out and be like, "Whoa, you went too far," except for one scene, which is part of my issue in some ways. But most of the time, it's very subtle, and she's not to blame for being anything other than herself. And there are women out there. And maybe I'll get in trouble for saying this, but I feel like I've experienced it enough times. There are women out there who are like, "What? I'm not doing anything. I'm just being myself." And it's like, no, you're not yourself like this with like your brother or your father. Or I don't know how to
Mm-hmm.
explain it, but I thought the movie captured the whole like girl that is a friend but not a girlfriend reality that is out there for a lot of guys.
Yeah, well, that's really central to the theme here. There's this huge gray area that has sort of developed between men and women who work together or interact with each other. That it's not anything close to a line that's cheating. It's this middle ground play area that that I don't know. It's a reality out there, and it really explored how it can seem like nothing's happening, but maybe something inappropriate's happening, but you can't really put your finger on it, but you sort of like that you can't put your finger on it and you take advantage of that. Um, Really did a great job of portraying that, I thought.
Yeah, and she's only half likable. That's the other thing. She's likable when she's a coworker, but then when she asks you to help her move, and there's a point in the movie, and it's not giving anything away, where he shows up and like the place is a mess. There's a lot of cleaning that has to go into it. She's kind of a slob at home for being, this attractive, thin
That's right.
person.
What's
She
this
eats,
from? Your birthday? Yeah.
yeah, like she still has
You
birthday
saw your
decorations up.
cake?
She ate her cake for breakfast for who knows how many days in a row, and she still looks great. But whatever. The point is that um, there are women like this who, like, when you see them at work, you almost have like a side crush on them, and then if you get to know them more and see how they really live, you're like, oh man, you're so far from having it together, and somebody that I'm glad I never thought of actually going for, because this would just be a ginormous mess, both literally and figuratively.
Interesting. So that's how you responded to Kate. Because I don't think Luke did. I think Luke was still very very torn about his relationship to her, and certainly at no point was he ever like completely put off.
Yeah, yeah. Except, man, this is a hard one to do spoiler free because I really want to get into it. But the climax almost where they sort of escalate with a fight, and she doesn't want to let him make her feel bad. And it's a very real event that could happen in anybody's life with a friend. Um, I don't know how else to talk about it. Like she was in the wrong in my opinion, but we had a little debate about it in my household after the movie. Maybe we need to do like a second movie review where we actually talk about these things.
Well, all these things, these tensions, these maybe both are wrong or maybe both are partly right. I I feel like it's super relevant to my life and my world and my social groups. And I loved all those tensions and those frictions, I guess is the word I want to say.
Yeah, cool, cool. Now you're making me almost want to like up my rating a little bit. I'll still stick with the 4 out of 5, but I'm just saying I love how much it mattered to you because for me, before having this conversation with you, that was kind of the main issue of the movie with me was like it was so subdued and insignificant with low stakes that after it was done, I was like, oh, I liked it. That was interesting, but I might forget about it soon just because there's not much meat there. But then there is if you think about it and you have a friend like Logan to talk about it with. So I don't know.
Yeah, so I'm just putting myself out on a limb, reluctant to, but that's sort of because I'm like Luke, I feel like. I don't want to put myself out to there and take a stand like 5 stars, but I'm gonna do it. 5 stars, as much as I've liked any movie this year. You have the last word, Bob.
Woo! You heard it here first, folks. Logan gave a movie 5 out of 5. I almost feel like inadequate by saying I gave it a 4 out of 5, but I'm sticking with my 4 out of 5. It was solid. I do recommend it only to those who like subtle, subdued movies a little more. It's
Fair enough.
low stakes and all that, but it's a good ride.